In the future, many parents choose to modify their baby's genes before birth. These babies, known as GC people, are created to be perfect with higher intelligence, ideal physical traits, and controlled emotions. They owe their name to Grencrest Labs, the company behind this method. As Earth faces climate change, space exploration becomes crucial. The GC people are selected as astronauts and sent into deep space aboard the Teleios spacecraft. Led by Commander Linden, they wake up from cryosleep upon reaching Saturn. Their mission, to investigate the fate of Atromitos, a mining ship drifting near Saturn's moon Titan. As they reach Atromitos, the crew notices that its hull is at risk of rupturing. Due to Atromitos' larger size, they must use all their thrusters to align both ships. Despite the challenge, they successfully dock the ships. However, when Zimmer and Anderson attempt a celebratory fist bump, Dr. Orson reprimands them for physical contact, as it confuses the GC biosigns. Following the docking, they contact GC Labs' CEO Nordum to report their findings. They inform him that Atromitos' last transmission was 3 months ago, and there has been no response since, leading them to believe the crew may be deceased. Nordum emphasizes the importance of recovering the cargo, a carbon-fixing catalyst vital for repairing Earth's atmosphere, mined over 2 years. Duncan gains access to Atromitos' logs, revealing the captain's frustration over delays and the crew quarantine. Despite their readiness to depart, they must await the quarantine's conclusion. In another log, the captain expresses concern that the situation is deteriorating rapidly, with a mutiny becoming increasingly likely. Orson vents his frustration, lamenting that perfect GCs like them always have to clean up the messes left by regular humans. Suddenly, they hear an unusual noise emanating from Atromitos, 90s death metal music. Alarmed, the Teleios crew arms themselves and prepares to board Atromitos. Zimmer overrides the access code as the intersystem configuration has inexplicably changed. Upon entering, they are greeted by strange graffiti covering the walls, and the deafening music makes communication difficult. During the chaos, the crew faces an unexpected attack from a makeshift security device. They swiftly neutralize the threat, ensuring their safety. Zimmer's investigation reveals that the black box has been forcibly removed, but he gains access to the ship's system and silences the blaring music. As the team explores further, Anderson discovers the greenhouse plants have overrun their designated areas. Among the vegetation, they encounter Lulu, Atromitos' robot servant, who informs them of a lone survivor aboard the ship. Meanwhile, Duncan locates Travis, who appears unresponsive and nearly catatonic. Orson embarks on a search for the cargo, only to find it missing upon arrival at its designated location. Shortly after, the crew convenes to analyze the situation. They discover that Atromitos' tracking system is offline, and the scans yield no trace of either the cargo or the crew. The only DNA detected belongs to Travis in the overgrown plants. Travis, identified as the junior engineer, appears physically unharmed but mentally unstable. His profile reveals no remarkable attributes, lacking any military training. Linden attempts to engage with Travis without success, prompting him to assign Duncan, who holds a PhD in psychology, to oversee him. Unfortunately, Lulu, the ship's robot assistant, proves unable to assist due to her memory being wiped clean, mirroring the state of Atromitos' system. Meanwhile, Anderson comes across a message from Nordum, who seems indifferent about the cargo and mentions the likelihood of them being stranded. She remarks on the need to make the best of the situation, suggesting they find ways to cope. This surprises Zimmer, who interprets her words as flirtatious, a behavior he believes GC individuals should not engage in. Meanwhile, Duncan visits Travis, hoping to connect with him through empathy. She discusses topics like crew friendships and the psychological challenges of space travel. After her attempts, Duncan reports to Linden and Orson that Travis remained unresponsive to her efforts. However, she noticed a slight reaction when she mentioned Lulu. Duncan suggests that it's not unusual for non-GC individuals to form emotional attachments to robots, particularly if they resemble humans. Considering Travis's engineering background, she speculates that he may have modified Lulu in some way. To confirm her theory, Zimmer conducts a medical examination, which confirms that Travis altered Lulu to have private parts. Linden decides to allow Lulu to visit Travis occasionally, hoping she can serve as a positive influence on him. Shortly after, the entire ship's system shuts down, indicating that Travis has escaped and likely armed himself with a missing pulse rifle. Duncan searches for him and encounters Travis, who points the weapon at her. She attempts to engage him with kindness once more, but their interaction is interrupted by Linden, who coerces Travis into lowering the rifle with threats. After securing Travis once more, Duncan confronts Linden about his lack of faith in in her methods, but he prioritizes the mission's objectives. Meanwhile, Anderson confides in Zimmer about finding solace in the emergency lights. Zimmer decides to access Atramitos' entertainment files, revealing their fondness for violent robot fights. While Zimmer sees this as a natural inclination due to human imperfections, Anderson finds it repulsive and requests him to stop. She then remarks on the room's increasing heat and removes her jacket, which unexpectedly discomforts Zimmer. Moments later, Zimmer manages to restore the system, only for them to receive another stern message from Nordum emphasizing the importance of retrieving the cargo above all else. Duncan takes a moment to examine the graffiti on the walls before revisiting Travis. This time, she engages him in conversation about his artwork before leaving him alone with Lulu. Duncan then discreetly observes them through a hidden camera in the next room and overhears Travis whispering to Lulu in Mandarin before kissing her. Later, Duncan encounters Orson wandering aimlessly in a corridor, which is unusual as he's known for his impeccable memory. Zimmer, who understands Mandarin, listens to the recording of Travis's whispers, which are somewhat garbled due to the low volume. Despite this, Zimmer manages to discern words like unable, belief, and near. He's puzzled why Travis's profile didn't mention his language skills, but assures Duncan he'll work on translating the entire conversation. Duncan returns to monitoring Travis and Lulu, noticing that Lulu's hand is trembling. She quickly conceals it to avoid suspicion. Since Travis remains silent, Duncan instructs Lulu to leave the room and asks her about their conversation. Lulu claims Travis expressed his belief that they are always together in his mind. However, this contradicts Zimmer's translation, indicating that Lulu is lying, which is unexpected behavior for her. Meanwhile, the men discuss alternative interrogation methods, with Orson suggesting military tactics he's studied in the past. However, Zimmer and Linden oppose any methods that could cause harm. Their discussion is interrupted by Anderson, who is experiencing issues with the bathroom system. Zimmer volunteers to fix it, and to his surprise, Anderson expresses gratitude with a hug and encourages him to stay. This leads to a romantic encounter between them in the shower. Meanwhile, Duncan continues to observe Travis and is startled when she hears him speaking in Russian. Before the computer can initiate translation, the ship suddenly starts shaking, and the crew discovers an outer door has opened, causing them to lose atmosphere. Linden notices Zimmer emerging from Anderson's room without his uniform, but they must focus on the emergency at hand. The situation worsens when Zimmer realizes they've been locked out of the system. The open door leads to the cargo bay, which should be isolated, indicating a breach in the air seal. Zimmer enters the cargo hold while Linden secures him with a rope. He successfully closes the door, but Anderson becomes emotional, fearing for her friend's safety. Linden returns unharmed, but Zimmer has succumbed to the change in air pressure. Orson rushes him to the infirmary for examination. He concludes that Zimmer needs some rest, probably until he wakes up, a departure from his usual precision with words, leaving Zimmer puzzled. Later, Linden confronts Anderson about her intimate encounter with Zimmer in the bathroom, reminding her that such primal behaviors are not suitable for GCs. Meanwhile, Duncan questions Orson about the capability of robots to lie. Orson explains that while they can be programmed to provide incorrect responses to specific queries, they cannot generate their own false answers. He confirms he didn't find such programming when examining Lulu. Duncan returns to the computer to translate the Russian sentences she heard earlier, which catches Anderson's attention. Anderson identifies the quote as a complex passage from War and Peace by Tolstoy. She ponders whether Travis is contemplating the meaning of their existence, prompting Duncan to confront him. After administering an electric shock to Travis, Duncan accuses him of feigning psychological trauma. In response, Travis speaks in French, surprising Duncan. He pleads with her not to share this revelation with anyone and cryptically adds another literary quote. Back on Anderson's end, she manages to restore communication in the Atramitos, only to find the same repetitive message from Nordum. It's not a live transmission, rather, it's a pre-recorded message that keeps looping every 2 hours. Linden instructs Anderson to send encrypted messages to Earth until they receive a response. This overwhelms Anderson, leading her to cry, which prompts Linden to reprimand her for being emotional. In the midst of this, Zimmer, who has just woken up, joins them. Anderson rushes to embrace him, further irritating Linden, who believes Zimmer's presence with Anderson distracted him from noticing the issue in the cargo bay earlier. Linden orders Anderson to consult Orson about her emotional state, then shares with Zimmer his discovery from the ship's logs. The logs show detailed entries for the first year, but become increasingly sparse over the second year, almost stopping completely 3 months ago, suggesting deliberate censorship. Instead of addressing this, Zimmer questions when Linden became so unreasonable. Orson looks at Anderson, but doesn't see any problems. Anderson wonders if Orson feels different, but he doesn't say. Duncan studies Travis's latest saying, which is by Molière. Atelier. This leads her to look at the wall writing under special light, where she finds a hidden message. This leads her to check the ship's records. When Lyndon comes by, Duncan tells him Atramitos was never really in trouble. Travis intentionally placed it near Titan before they got there. They find a recording about a fight over the cargo that caused a war between groups. This makes Duncan doubt what Nordham said about the cargo. Duncan hurriedly brings Lyndon to the hidden message she uncovered in the graffiti. It's a complex chemical equation, indicating a volatile reaction involving a water-based liquid and an unknown substance. As she explains her findings, Duncan recalls Travis's peculiar behavior during his escape attempt. Instead of targeting her, he aimed at the water filtration system. This connection, coupled with the cargo bay's role in jettisoning the cargo, leads Duncan to suspect that the compound aboard is hazardous, particularly when exposed to water. Lyndon, however, dismisses it as circumstantial and insists on obtaining a confession from Travis. Determined, Duncan confronts Travis, seeking answers. However, his responses are cryptic, quoting Tolstoy and implying the compound's danger to non-GC individuals. Frustrated, Duncan leaves, her hand trembling with unresolved tension. Zimmer finds her in the corridor, concerned about her trembling hand. However, his attention quickly wanes as he forgets his initial purpose. Meanwhile, Zimmer updates Lyndon on the potential fate of the cargo if it had been released. He explains that it would have descended into Titan's atmosphere and survived the landing due to its protective casing. However, without more precise information, searching for it would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. Later, Lyndon approves a more aggressive approach to interrogate Travis. Duncan, desperate for answers, threatens Travis by implying harm to Lulu. Initially unmoved, Travis reacts when Orson threatens to damage Lulu's arm. He finally relents, providing them with the codes to track the cargo box. Travis also agrees to divulge information about the compound, but only on the condition that they allow him to repair Lulu. In the communication room, Zimmer attempts to initiate intimacy with Anderson, but she pushes him away, prioritizing the mission. Zimmer, feeling frustrated by his lack of control, confesses that he can't focus on his duties because he's constantly thinking about her. His words move Anderson to tears and she kisses him. When Lyndon catches them in another intimate moment, he tries to start a fight, but Orson interrupts with information obtained from Travis. With the help of the code provided by Travis, they locate the cargo, although they can't see it. Lyndon decides to retrieve it with Zimmer using a pod. Meanwhile, Duncan provides Travis with repair tools to coax him into revealing more information. Travis admits to jettisoning the bodies and cargo and wiping Lulu's and the ship's memories. He couldn't bring himself to end his own life, so he embraced the chaos, preferring to tell his own story rather than have it documented in a captain's log. Once the crew successfully collected the compound from Titan, a tiny piece sneaked past quarantine and contaminated their water. This made all the water deadly. They warned Earth about the danger, but Nordham claimed their ship's special filtration system could handle it, suggesting they knew about its danger all along. The crew split into two groups. Some refused to take the compound back, while others followed Nordham's orders. Conflict erupted, resulting in the deaths of those who resisted. Travis avoided the conflict and survived. However, members of the winning side started dying mysteriously. GC Labs had dark plans for the compound. They wanted to use it to kill regular humans and use their blood to enhance GC people. After Duncan learns the truth, Travis starts repairing Lulu. While searching through the ship's messages, Anderson comes across a chilling communication from Nordham. He warns that it's his final message. Nordham reveals a shocking truth. The DNA of every GC person contains a tracking code that was meant to be harmless. However, it's now mutating and causing irreversible neurological damage, leading to the crew experiencing overwhelming emotions. Nordham confirms Travis's grim prediction. Earth is in chaos, with regular humans being hunted. The crew has only a few hours before they succumb to madness. Orson, Anderson, and Duncan convene to discuss their options. Orson suggests that Travis's blood could potentially reverse the effects and save them. However, this would mean sacrificing Travis himself. Duncan decides to wait for Zimmer and Lyndon's return before making any decisions. Moments later, Duncan catches Orson attempting to sneak out of his office with blood extraction tools. With no other choice, she remains vigilant, rifle in hand, until their comrades return. 16 hours later, Lyndon and Zimmer arrive, but their reunion quickly turns into a brawl. The crew intervenes, separating them. After confirming the safety of the cargo, they reconvene and opt for a vote. Zimmer and Anderson oppose extracting Travis's blood, but ultimately, Duncan sides with Lyndon and Zimmer, believing it's better for one to perish than 5. As Orson prepares to initiate the procedure on Travis, Anderson voices her distrust of him, citing his suspicious activities related to the art of war. Duncan clarifies that Orson was merely translating the text spoken by Travis to Lulu. In a sudden realization, Anderson understands her error. It wasn't Travis who did murders, but Lulu. Meanwhile, Lulu awakens and swiftly incapacitates Orson. The crew scrambles to arm themselves, but by the time they reach the rec room, Orson is unconscious and Lulu has fled with Travis. Anxious about the impending danger, Anderson confesses her love to Zimmer. Before he can respond, the ship's systems malfunction, plunging them into darkness. Zimmer investigates, but a sudden noise draws his attention back, only to find Anderson murdered from behind during the chaos. Angry, Zimmer disregards Duncan's warnings and ventures alone to confront their adversary. He tracks Lulu to Bay, where she proves to be a formidable opponent, even surpassing the abilities of a GC person. Despite landing a few blows, Zimmer is no match for Lulu's strength, and she ultimately kills him. Meanwhile, Travis stumbles upon Duncan and subdues her with his rifle. However, this act exposes his location, allowing Lyndon to intervene and fatally shoot him as well. As Lulu walks past Duncan's still form, thinking her unconscious, it's revealed as a clever trick. Lyndon holds Travis hostage to stop Lulu's advance, and together both shoot at the ship's lights, causing them to explode above Lulu, electrocuting her. After this, Lyndon prepares to execute Travis, accusing him of modifying Lulu, but Travis denies it. Duncan, seeing Lyndon's unjust actions, decides to spare Travis and kills Lyndon instead. She reveals she's part of the 3% for whom the genetic modification didn't fully work, sparing her from the mutation's effects. Duncan spared Travis because he claimed innocence in modifying Lulu, and now she wants to understand why Lulu modified herself and gained the ability to deceive. Travis explains that Lulu made the changes to feel closer to him, but he doesn't know why her behavior changed. To find out, they need to fix Lulu, and the best chance for that is on Earth. Duncan suggests Travis takes Lulu back on the Telios and shares their story with everyone. Duncan plans to stay on the Atramenos and accept whatever happens next, feeling she deserves it because of something she did in her past when she couldn't control her anger. Once Travis and Lulu are safely away on the Telios, Duncan overrides Atramenos' commands and crashes the ship into Titan's surface, ending the problem once and for all. And with this, the movie comes to an end. Thanks for tuning in, guys.